Hello and welcome to B2B Automation with AI. We're going to talk about everything you need to know about benefits, technology, and cost. My name is Maximilian Garmatch. I'm the CEO CTO at codeconsulting.io. I'm based in Berlin, Germany. My team is remote in 5 time zones, and we operate all across Europe and the United States. We've been doing business automation since about 2020, and our original background is B2B software engineering since 2010. So let's talk about why you would even want to automate your business. What's the point of all this? So yeah, it's a cost reduction. And I personally think the reduction of hiring correlates with that. But keep in mind, you're also going to have a lot less management and a lot less errors. Ultimately, to sort of give this a nice, more friendly touch, is you also have this opportunity to elevate your team members. We're going to talk about that in just a second. From an investor perspective, this is an investment. Obviously, how profitable is this? How fast is this going to go? Well, we're going to work on that together, partially in our first free consultation, but then also later go into more details. So we're just going to basically estimate how much workload can actually be reduced through this. What does that cost? Not every automation is worth automating. Some people are already at the most amazing price point and they're doing it amazing. So you can't automate everything. Everything has a cost. That'll obviously lead us to a return on investment. And then we're going to have a really interesting conversation about the team members that you do have and, giving this a positive touch and saying, how do we elevate those team members once we reduce their workloads, right? Reducing the workload that they never wanted to have. They're doing tasks that maybe no one needs to do. Maybe we can delegate that to machines. So we're going to have those conversations. But ultimately, this is an investment. And just as a personal goal, we would like to 5x your investment within 1 year. And that investment essentially becomes the whatever we save you is going to be generated or going to be repetitive over many years. So what does your future look like? Let's talk about the future. The future is cool. So I come from a background of custom software engineering. We don't want to do that. That's very, very expensive. So we're going to try to use as much no code as possible. Obviously, we're going to integrate all the things you already use, most notably all of the entire software environment that you're comfortable with, that your team is comfortable with, right? We're not changing any of those things. We're trying to integrate as little as possible into the plethora of tools that you're already using. Obviously, we're going to also be integrating into new data. So maybe you have team members who are doing a lot of research and trying to have sort of up-to-date live data. That'll be much more automated. And last but not least, there's always a little bit of custom code for any service like this. We are essentially a software development company, and there will be some custom code. For those who know it, it's going to be in Python and in JavaScript. And the magical new technology that everyone has been waiting for, or that's been the buzz around town, is AI agents and large language models. You already have used OpenAI with ChatGPT, but also Google Facebook are working on large language models that are openly accessible. These AI agents can work on any repetitive tasks. They can gather any kind of information and analyze that data intelligently. This is very new technology. This has not been possible since maybe last year. What's also seeming to be a very big potential for these AI agents is handling human-to-human communication, whether that's internal or external. So whether you're dealing with inside team members, for example, for project management or team member management, but also reaching out to new customers or dealing with existing customers. Then the big topic is also media content creation. So creating any kind of images, slowly getting really good at video content, also augmenting recordings from humans. So creating your own AI avatar, for example. Just to be clear, I decided not to create an avatar of myself for this recording. This is actually live. Please excuse the outtakes. What's also really charming about these things is that they're slowly becoming good decision makers. So we are going to keep you in the loop on these things, but they are getting very good at making decisions. We're always going to keep you in the loop for those, and those decisions are getting better and better. But you'll always have the final say. Now, how do you interact with this thing? Well, you're going to be on the move. I'm assuming this presentation is mostly targeted for decision makers, CEOs, CTOs, middle managers of enterprise corporations. So you kind of work wherever you want. We have a voice to text module built in. I'll talk about the details in a second. But really work wherever you want, interact with it however is most comfortable for you, or wherever you have the best ideas. This slide is probably one of my favorites because we literally created it during the editing of this presentation within 15 minutes. Shout out to my wonderful assistant, Malek. She's in Egypt. And we decided to visualize this a little bit. What of course happens in the background is this is essentially on a lower level is a chat-based communication with a large language model, integrated either to the tools you might already be using, or we'll integrate a standalone software very quickly if you're not using a chat within your company currently. Yeah, and that allows you not to just stay in the loop for all the decisions and have that feeling of dealing with a human team member. It's going to feel very similar to that. And you're going to be able to interact with that. It's, of course, 24/7. And what's really interesting is that these language models, the way we build them, we're using a concept called reinforcement learning through human feedback. So it does get better over time. But keep in mind what our goal here is in the beginning, especially if we start with small projects, is to really replace repetitive tasks, create something that already knows what to do and gives you feedback, is able to understand simple improvements where you say, hey, you know what? I know my customers a little bit better. I'm going to ask you to do this slightly differently, or I'm going to copy the text you wrote for this email. So simple example. And I would like you to add, or I'm going to give you another version that I wrote, and please use the changes that I made moving forward, right? So very similar to how you would interact with a human being. Okay. What does this cost? Well, right now it's not costing you anything. We're going to have a couple conversations before anything costs you anything. So you're going to meet me. Then after we have a baseline understanding, we're still going to need a little bit more time. We're going to just go with consulting per hour, right? You might not be fully ready to commit to a project right now. So we're just going to go into consulting. Whenever you're ready, pick up the phone, give me a call. I'll charge you by the minute. And then ultimately our goal is to create projects. Absolute minimum project size is 4 weeks, typically 6 weeks. And you can, just to give you a rough estimation, a typical manager will cost you about $600 a week for that project. And a typical software engineer who's really specialized on these AI technologies will run you about $480 a day. To summarize this, again, I always like to repeat all projects are different. So these are just examples. Projects are always custom. I'll give you a very quick, very customized project estimation. I always like to say I need about 8 hours of consulting to give you about a 4-week project estimation, right? But so the smallest project price is usually one full-time developer working over 6 weeks. That includes management, customer support, and any kind of communication we have, invoicing, et cetera. And sort of on the bigger end, estimating something a little bit bigger than 6 months feels often out of reach. So you might not or might not be ready for that. I guess a typical software team, a small software team, 5 developers will run you around these numbers. We like to include 45 days of post-project support. So that gives us a little bit of pressure to not make mistakes. This is definitely still a software engineering project, even though we're using no-code tools and we're trying to keep the cost to an absolute minimum. We do offer 45-day post-project, basically a guarantee. So if anything does pop up that we implemented wrong or that's not working quite as expected, we'll just do that basically after the project. And this, of course, motivates us to reduce all errors during development. Okay. There is an operating cost. So after we're done, you're still going to be wanting to run these AI agents, to do their work. This correlates very closely with the cost of electricity or just the integration of large language models, and our particular case, OpenAI, or it can be Google Cloud or what have you. Just for having a sort of very clear to recognize example, this is sort of a detailed structure of what an AI agent would do when it's doing inbound and outbound email handling. So inbound being a little bit just sort of simple, responsive, and outbound emails being a tiny bit more creative. The concept here, just to give you some technological background, is the concept called tokens. So that's how OpenAI would charge the access to their API, right? 200 tokens are roughly 200 words, right? So it's a half a page, 3/4 page email roughly, doing all this automatically. Just for the brain behind this, the large language model, we're roughly $18 a month. Then you're going to have some basic cloud infrastructure. This could also technically go to zero if you already have it. So we're going to have to run this on some server that you might need. We'll set that up for you if you need it. Maybe you already have it. We'll integrate it. And then a lot of times for certain tasks, you're really trying to create something that has a human feel to it. So it's using the same tools that you already know, just like some other team members might already be using, right? Obviously, you might need more seats or more investment into those tools. For example, tracking them and integrating into your customer relationship management tool, things like that. But roughly, you're talking about $30 to $80 a month operating cost once we're finished. Right. This is very close to the cost of electricity. Yeah. That almost brings us to the end. I'd love to have a conversation with you. So just ask me anything whenever you're ready. Let's start with, can your business even be automated? I promise you it can, but let's see how much. Then if you haven't actually done a software project yet or haven't partnered with another agency, then I'm happy to give you a step-by-step walkthrough of how these projects typically go. This is also all completely free of charge, including also a basic cost and savings plan, right? Just to see how many team members do you have, how many of those roles are repetitive. Repetitive roles are extremely valuable. So one-time investment into technology, saving workload for multiple team members who oftentimes tend to do the same things, maybe for different regions or different customer basis. Yeah. So we'll clarify anything you have. If you have maybe any other questions. My name is Maximilian Garmatch, and I'd love to talk to you. Here's my contact card. Call me anytime. Send me an email. Check out our website, whatever you want. And maybe I'll leave you with one last question. What would you do with 40% less workload? Let's get started. Thank you very much.